The silence was deafening. For months, the world watched and waited as Buckingham Palace remained mysteriously quiet about one of the most beloved members of the royal family. Behind closed doors, conversations were happening that would change the course of the monarchy forever. When King Charles III finally stepped forward alongside his son Prince William, their words would send shockwaves through every corner of the globe. What they revealed about Catherine, the Princess of Wales, wasn't just news. It was a moment that would define the future of the British royal family. The carefully guarded secret they had been protecting was about to be shared with the world, and nothing would ever be the same again. This is the true story of courage, family bonds, and the moment when the crown chose transparency over tradition. A story that begins with whispered concerns in palace corridors and ends with a revelation that would touch the hearts of millions worldwide. The morning of January 17, 2024, began like any other at Kensington Palace, but by evening, it would become a date forever etched in royal history. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had been preparing for what she believed would be a routine medical procedure. The 42-year-old mother of three had been experiencing persistent abdominal discomfort for several weeks, something she had initially dismissed as stress from her demanding royal schedule. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the royal physician, had been quietly monitoring Catherine's condition since late December. The symptoms were subtle at first, occasional fatigue that couldn't be explained by her busy calendar, mild digestive issues that came and went, and a general feeling that something wasn't quite right. Catherine, ever the professional, had continued her royal duties without complaint, attending charity events and public engagements with her characteristic grace and warmth. Prince William noticed the changes first. During their private moments at Adelaide Cottage, he observed how Catherine would pause sometimes, her hand resting gently on her abdomen, a flicker of concern crossing her face before she quickly composed herself. She had always been incredibly strong, handling the pressures of royal life with remarkable poise, but William knew her better than anyone. The subtle signs were there for those who loved her most. The decision to seek medical attention wasn't taken lightly. Royal health matters are typically handled with extreme discretion, and Catherine was acutely aware that any hint of health concerns would immediately become global news. She had seen how media speculation could spiral out of control, and the last thing she wanted was to cause unnecessary worry for the public who had come to adore her. Dr. Mitchell recommended a series of tests, starting with routine blood work and imaging studies. The London Clinic, a private hospital known for treating members of the royal family, was chosen for its discretion and expertise. Catherine scheduled the appointments during a quiet period in her royal calendar, hoping to address whatever was causing her discomfort and return to her duties quickly. The initial tests were conducted with the utmost secrecy. Only a small circle of trusted medical professionals and palace staff were aware of Catherine's consultations. Dr. Mitchell, who had served the royal family for over 15 years, understood the delicate balance between providing thorough medical care and maintaining the privacy that royal patients required. Prince William accompanied Catherine to her first appointment, their security detail ensuring they could enter and leave the clinic without attracting media attention. The couple had developed a routine over the years for handling private medical matters, always ensuring their three children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, remained unaware of any concerns until absolutely necessary. The test results began arriving over the following days. Blood work showed some irregularities that warranted further investigation. Dr. Mitchell explained to Catherine that while the findings weren't immediately alarming, they suggested the need for a more comprehensive examination. Additional imaging was scheduled, including an MRI that would provide detailed pictures of her abdominal area. Catherine approached each appointment with her characteristic determination. She had faced challenges before, from the intense scrutiny of her early relationship with William to the pressures of becoming a working royal and mother. This felt different, though. There was an uncertainty that she couldn't shake, a feeling that this wasn't something that would resolve with rest or a change in routine. The palace staff who worked closest with Catherine began to notice subtle changes in her schedule. Meetings were occasionally rescheduled, and some public appearances were quietly adjusted. Jenny, Catherine's private secretary, worked carefully to ensure these changes appeared routine rather than concerning. The art of managing a royal calendar while accommodating personal matters required skill and discretion that came from years of experience. During this period, Catherine continued her public duties whenever possible. She attended a children's hospital visit that had been planned for months, spending time with young patients and their families. The children's faces lit up when she entered their rooms, and Catherine found strength in their joy and resilience. It reminded her of why her work mattered so much and why maintaining her health was essential not just for her family, but for all those who counted on her royal work. The medical team at the London clinic worked methodically through each test and examination. Dr. Mitchell coordinated with specialists in various fields, ensuring Catherine received the most comprehensive care possible. Each consultation was scheduled during off-peak hours to maintain privacy, and the medical staff signed additional confidentiality agreements beyond their standard professional obligations. Prince William struggled with the uncertainty more than his wife did. He had always been protective of his family, shaped by the loss of his mother and the intense media scrutiny they faced. Watching Catherine go through medical tests while maintaining her public smile was difficult for him. He found himself studying her face during their private moments, looking for signs of discomfort or worry that she might be hiding. The couple made a conscious decision to maintain normalcy for their children during this period. Prince George, then 10, Princess Charlotte, 8, and Prince Louis, 5, continued their school routines and activities without any indication that their mother was undergoing medical evaluation. Catherine and William had learned from their own experiences growing up in the public eye that children needed stability and protection from adult worries whenever possible. King Charles III was informed about Catherine's medical consultations early in the process. As the head of the family and the monarchy, he needed to be aware of any situations that might affect the working royals. Charles had always held a special affection for Catherine, appreciating how she had embraced royal life and brought such joy to his son. He immediately offered his full support and ensured that palace resources were available for whatever Catherine and William needed. The king understood the delicate nature of the situation. Public interest in Catherine's well-being was enormous, and any hint of health concerns would generate intense media coverage and speculation. Charles had experienced his own health challenges over the years, and knew how important it was to handle such matters with careful consideration for both the individual and the institution. As January progressed, the medical team continued their thorough evaluation. Each test brought more pieces to a puzzle that was slowly revealing its full picture. Dr. Mitchell maintained regular communication with Catherine and William, explaining each step of the process and what the results might indicate. Her calm, professional approach helped ease some of the anxiety that naturally accompanied medical uncertainty. Catherine found herself reflecting on her journey to this point during the quiet moments between appointments. From her childhood in Berkshire to meeting William at university, from their engagement announcement to becoming the Princess of Wales, her life had been a series of adaptations and challenges. She had learned to find strength in difficult moments and to trust in the support of those around her. The palace communications team, led by experienced press secretaries, began preparing various scenarios for potential announcements. While they hoped Catherine's health concerns would prove minor and easily treatable, they needed to be prepared for different outcomes. Royal communications required careful planning, especially when dealing with matters as sensitive as health issues. Prince William's role during this period extended beyond being a supportive husband. As second in line to the throne and a senior working royal, he needed to consider how Catherine's situation might affect their royal duties and public commitments. Several major events were scheduled for the coming months, including Commonwealth celebrations and international visits that required both their participation. The medical evaluations continued into the final week of January. Dr. Mitchell and her team worked with increasing focus as they gathered comprehensive information about Catherine's condition. The princess approached each appointment with grace and patience, understanding that thorough medical care sometimes required time and multiple consultations. During one particularly long day of testing, Catherine sat in a quiet waiting room at the London clinic, looking out at the London skyline. She thought about the millions of people around the world who faced similar medical uncertainties, many without the resources and support she was fortunate to have. This perspective helped her maintain gratitude even during moments of concern and uncertainty. The final test results were scheduled to arrive in early February. Dr. Mitchell planned a comprehensive consultation with Catherine and William to discuss all findings and recommendations. As January drew to a close, the palace prepared for whatever news would come, knowing that the next phase would require careful decisions about Catherine's care and the appropriate level of public communication. The month had been a journey of medical discovery, family support, and careful planning. Catherine had shown her characteristic strength and grace throughout the process, while William had provided unwavering support as both husband and partner in royal duties. King Charles had offered the full backing of the monarchy, understanding that the health and well-being of working royals affected the entire institution. As they waited for final results and recommendations, Catherine and William found strength in their family routine and their commitment to serving the public when possible. The uncertainty was challenging, but they faced it together, knowing that whatever came next would be handled with the same care and consideration they brought to all aspects of their royal life. The stage was set for revelations that would soon change everything, but for now, they focused on each day as it came, finding joy in small moments with their children and drawing strength from the support of family, medical professionals, and trusted staff who helped them navigate this challenging period with dignity and hope. The morning of February 1st brought news that would change everything for the Wales family. Dr. Mitchell's call came earlier than expected, her voice carrying a professional calm that barely concealed the weight of what she needed to discuss. Catherine answered the phone in her private study at Adelaide Cottage, surrounded by the comfortable reminders of her family life. Photos of the children, William's reading glasses on the side table, and the morning tea that had grown cold as she waited for this moment. The conversation lasted exactly 17 minutes, but those minutes contained a lifetime of information. Dr. Mitchell explained that the comprehensive tests had revealed something significant. The imaging studies and blood work painted a picture that required immediate attention and a treatment plan that would fundamentally alter Catherine's life for the coming months. The diagnosis wasn't what anyone had hoped for, but it also wasn't the worst-case scenario they had quietly feared. Catherine listened with the same composure she brought to state dinners and charity galas. Years of royal training had taught her to process information calmly, even when that information turned her world upside down. She asked precise questions about treatment options, recovery timelines, and what this would mean for her ability to fulfill her royal duties. Dr. Mitchell had prepared for these questions, knowing that Catherine's first thoughts would be about her responsibilities to others. After ending the call, Catherine sat in silence for several minutes, absorbing the reality of her situation. Through the window, she could see the gardens where her children played, the same gardens where she had found peace during other challenging moments. The normalcy of the scene, gardeners tending to the winter plantings, security personnel making their routine rounds, provided a strange comfort as she processed news that would soon ripple through her entire world. Prince William was in London when Catherine called him. He was reviewing briefing documents for an upcoming visit to a veterans charity when his phone rang. Catherine's voice was steady as she shared Dr. Mitchell's findings, but William knew his wife well enough to hear the undertones of concern and determination that lay beneath her composed words. He canceled his remaining meetings immediately and drove straight home to be with her. The reunion in their sitting room was both heartbreaking and strengthening. Catherine had prepared herself to be strong for this conversation, but seeing William's face, the mixture of concern, love, and fierce protectiveness, allowed her emotions to surface for the first time since the diagnosis. They held each other for a long time, not speaking, just drawing strength from their partnership that had weathered so many challenges already. Together, they began making the phone calls that would set everything in motion. King Charles was the first to be informed officially, though Catherine had asked Dr. Mitchell to brief him earlier as a courtesy. Charles received the news in his study at Clarence House, surrounded by the red dispatch boxes that symbolized the weight of monarchy. His immediate response was both personal and institutional, expressing love and support for Catherine while beginning to consider the implications for royal duties and public appearances. The king's own experiences with health challenges gave him a unique perspective on what Catherine would be facing. He understood the delicate balance between maintaining privacy and eventually sharing appropriate information with the public. Charles also recognized that Catherine's situation would require adjustments to the royal calendar and potentially affect several high-profile events that were already in planning stages. Queen Camilla was with Charles when he received the news. Her maternal instincts kicked in immediately, thinking about how to support Catherine practically and emotionally through what was ahead. Camilla had watched Catherine grow into her royal role over the years and had developed a genuine affection for the younger woman who brought such joy to William and the children. She began mentally reviewing her own schedule to see how she might take on additional duties if needed. The conversation with Catherine's parents, Michael and Carol Middleton, was perhaps the most difficult. Catherine called them from the privacy of her bedroom, knowing that hearing about their daughter's health concerns would be devastating for them. Carol's sharp intake of breath was audible across the phone line, while Michael's quiet questions about treatment and prognosis reflected his practical nature even in moments of emotional turmoil. The Middleton family had always been Catherine's anchor, providing the stability and normalcy that helped her navigate royal life. Now, that support system would be more important than ever. Plans were quickly made for increased involvement in the grandchildren's care and more frequent visits to provide emotional support during Catherine's treatment period. Dr. Mitchell arrived at Adelaide Cottage that evening for a comprehensive consultation with both Catherine and William. She brought additional medical colleagues who would be part of Catherine's care team, including specialists who had extensive experience treating conditions like hers. The dining room was transformed into a medical consultation space, with charts and treatment protocols spread across the same table where the family shared their daily meals. The treatment plan was complex, but clear. Catherine would need surgery within the next few weeks, followed by a recovery period that would keep her away from public duties for several months. The medical team emphasized that with proper treatment and care, the prognosis was very positive, but the journey ahead would require significant adjustments to every aspect of her life. William asked detailed questions about the surgery itself, recovery expectations, and potential complications. His military training had taught him to gather comprehensive information when facing challenges, and this situation was no different. He needed to understand every aspect of what Catherine would be experiencing so he could provide the best possible support and help make informed decisions about their family's immediate future. The children's well-being became an immediate priority in planning. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis would need to be told something appropriate for their ages, but the exact timing and approach required careful consideration. Child psychologists who had worked with royal families before were quietly consulted about the best ways to help children understand and cope with a parent's health challenges. Catherine was determined that her children's lives should be disrupted as little as possible. Their school routines, activities, and friendships needed to continue normally while she focused on her treatment and recovery. William would need to take on more of the daily parenting responsibilities, something he welcomed despite the circumstances that made it necessary. Palace communications staff began the delicate process of planning public announcements and managing the inevitable media attention. Royal health matters required careful consideration of timing, content, and tone. The public's genuine affection for Catherine meant that news of her health concerns would generate enormous interest and sympathy, but also intense scrutiny of every detail that was shared or withheld. Press Secretary Sarah Johnson worked closely with Catherine and William to draft potential statements that would provide appropriate information while maintaining necessary privacy. Multiple versions were prepared to account for different scenarios and timelines, each carefully worded to balance transparency with discretion. The goal was to inform the public honestly while protecting Catherine's right to medical privacy. International implications also required consideration. Catherine's health would be news around the world, particularly in Commonwealth countries where she and William were scheduled to make official visits. Diplomatic protocols needed to be reviewed, and alternative arrangements might be necessary for several important international engagements that had been planned months in advance. The security implications of Catherine's treatment also required immediate attention. Her protection officers needed to understand her medical schedule and coordinate with hospital security to ensure her safety and privacy during treatment. The London clinic had experience with high-profile patients, but treating a member of the royal family required additional precautions and planning. As the evening progressed, Catherine found herself thinking about all the people who would be affected by her situation. Royal staff who had dedicated their careers to supporting her work, charity organizations that depended on her patronage, and the countless individuals who had formed personal connections to her through her public appearances over the years. She felt a deep responsibility to handle her health challenges in a way that honored these relationships. The financial implications of extended medical treatment and reduced royal duties also needed consideration. While the royal family's resources were substantial, extended medical care and the potential need for additional staff coverage during Catherine's recovery represented significant expenses that required proper planning and budgeting. William spent time that evening reviewing their family's immediate schedule and making preliminary decisions about which commitments could be maintained and which would need to be postponed or canceled. His own royal duties would need adjustment to accommodate increased family responsibilities and support for Catherine during her treatment. The couple made a conscious decision to maintain as much normalcy as possible in the immediate term. The children would continue their regular routines, and Catherine would participate in family activities as much as her energy and medical schedule allowed. This approach would help everyone adjust gradually to the changes ahead while preserving important elements of their family life. Late that night, after all the consultations and planning sessions were complete, Catherine and William found themselves alone together for the first time since receiving the diagnosis. They talked quietly about their fears, their hopes, and their commitment to facing this challenge together. The conversation reinforced the partnership that had sustained them through every previous challenge and would carry them through the difficult months ahead. The transformation from a normal family morning to a completely altered reality had happened in the space of a single day. By the time they went to sleep that night, Catherine and William had begun the process of adapting their entire lives around a new reality that would test their strength, their family bonds, and their commitment to their royal duties in ways they had never anticipated. The decision to tell the children came on a quiet Sunday morning in early February. Catherine and William had spent days consulting with child psychologists and carefully planning their approach. They chose the family sitting room at Adelaide Cottage, the same comfortable space where they had shared countless bedtime stories and family conversations. The morning light filtered through the windows as they gathered their 3 children together for what would become one of the most important family discussions of their lives. Prince George, at 10 years old, sensed immediately that this wasn't an ordinary family chat. His parents' careful positioning, sitting together on the sofa facing the children, reminded him of other serious conversations they had shared about royal responsibilities and public life. Princess Charlotte, 8, tucked herself close to her father's side, while 5-year-old Prince Louis climbed into his mother's lap with the unconscious trust that only young children possess. Catherine began with gentle words about how sometimes grown-ups need special medical care, just like when the children visited the doctor for checkups or when they had been ill with childhood ailments. She explained that she had been feeling unwell and that doctors had discovered something that needed treatment to help her feel better again. Her voice remained steady and reassuring, drawing on all her experience comforting children during hospital visits and charity events. William took over when Catherine paused, explaining that Mummy would need to go to the hospital for an operation, just like some of the brave children they had met during their charity work. He emphasized that the doctors were very good at helping people feel better and that while it might take some time, Mummy would get stronger again. The children's faces showed a mixture of concern and curiosity as they processed this information. George asked the most direct questions, wanting to understand exactly what was wrong and why the operation was necessary. His maturity and natural seriousness made him process the information differently from his younger siblings. Catherine answered his questions honestly, but in age-appropriate terms, explaining that sometimes bodies need fixing just like machines or toys that stop working properly. Charlotte's response was characteristically empathetic. She immediately wanted to know if her mother was in pain and what she could do to help her feel better. Her natural caring instincts, which had been evident from early childhood, came to the forefront as she began planning ways to take care of her mother. She offered to share her favorite stuffed animals and suggested making get-well cards with special drawings. Louis, being the youngest, understood the least about the medical aspects, but grasped that his mother needed extra love and care. His response was to snuggle closer to Catherine and promise to be extra good while she was getting better. His innocent questions about whether she would still be able to read bedtime stories and play games brought tears to both parents' eyes, though they maintained their composure. The conversation lasted about an hour, with many hugs and reassurances. Catherine and William emphasized that their family was strong and that they would face this challenge together, just as they had faced other difficulties in the past. They explained that some of their normal activities might change temporarily, but that the most important things, their love for each other and their family bond, would never change. Plans for the children's care during Catherine's treatment had been carefully coordinated. The Middleton grandparents would play a larger role in daily routines, while William would adjust his schedule to be more present for school runs, activities, and bedtime routines. The family's nanny and household staff were prepared to provide additional support while maintaining the children's familiar routines as much as possible. School arrangements required delicate handling. The head teachers at Lambrook School, where all 3 children were students, were privately briefed about the family situation. They agreed to provide additional pastoral support while maintaining complete confidentiality about the specifics of Catherine's health challenges. The school community's discretion would be crucial in helping the children maintain normalcy during this period. Catherine's surgery was scheduled for February 14th, a date that would forever change the significance of Valentine's Day for the Wales family. The timing was chosen to minimize disruption to the children's half-term holiday, allowing William to focus on Catherine's care during the most critical recovery period without affecting school schedules. The days leading up to surgery were filled with medical consultations and preparation. Catherine underwent additional tests and met with the surgical team multiple times to review procedures and recovery expectations. Dr. Mitchell coordinated every aspect of her care, ensuring that the medical team understood not only her physical needs, but also the unique considerations that came with treating a senior member of the royal family. William accompanied Catherine to every pre-surgical appointment, taking detailed notes and asking questions that reflected his engineering background and systematic approach to complex challenges. He wanted to understand every aspect of the procedure and recovery process so he could provide informed support and make appropriate decisions if needed during Catherine's treatment. The palace communications team worked intensively during this period to prepare for the public announcement of Catherine's surgery. Multiple draft statements were prepared, each carefully worded to provide appropriate information while respecting Catherine's privacy and medical confidentiality. The timing of the announcement would be crucial to managing public reaction and media coverage. International considerations complicated the communications planning. Catherine and William had upcoming visits to several Commonwealth countries, including a significant tour of Australia and New Zealand that had been planned for months. These trips would need to be postponed, requiring diplomatic notifications and coordination with host governments who had invested considerable resources in preparation. King Charles faced his own challenges during this period. His son's wife was facing serious health issues at the same time that his own royal duties demanded constant attention. Charles found himself balancing his role as a concerned family member with his responsibilities as monarch, ensuring that the institution continued functioning smoothly despite personal concerns. The king made arrangements to take on additional royal duties that might normally have been shared with Catherine and William. His own schedule was adjusted to accommodate extra engagements, and Queen Camilla prepared to increase her public appearances as well. The royal family's commitment to public service meant that Catherine's temporary absence needed to be managed without creating gaps in royal coverage. Clarence House staff worked closely with Kensington Palace staff to coordinate schedules and responsibilities. The seamless operation of royal duties during this period would require unprecedented cooperation between different royal households and careful management of resources and personnel. Catherine spent her final days before surgery focusing on her children and completing personal preparations. She wrote letters for each child to receive while she was in the hospital, filled with love, encouragement, and reminders of special memories they shared. These letters would be opened at specific times during her recovery, providing comfort and connection even when she couldn't be physically present. She also recorded bedtime story videos for Louis, knowing that maintaining this cherished routine would be important for his emotional security during her hospital stay. The recordings captured her voice reading his favorite books, preserving the comfort of their nightly ritual even when she couldn't be there in person. Personal preparations extended to practical matters as well. Catherine organized her private office, ensuring that her staff could handle ongoing charitable commitments and correspondence during her absence. She met personally with representatives from her key patronages, explaining that while she would be temporarily unable to fulfill public duties, her commitment to their causes remained unwavering. The evening before surgery, the family gathered for a special dinner at Adelaide Cottage. The children had spent the afternoon helping cook prepare Catherine's favorite meal, and the dining room was decorated with handmade get-well cards and drawings. It was a celebration of family love and resilience, acknowledging the challenge ahead while emphasizing the strength of their bonds. Catherine and William spent extra time with each child that evening, providing individual attention and reassurance. They read favorite stories, shared special memories, and reinforced the message that while the next few weeks would be different, their family love would remain constant and strong. The final preparations included packing for the hospital stay and ensuring that Catherine's personal items, photos of the children, a favorite blanket, and books would be available to provide comfort during recovery. These small personal touches would become important sources of emotional support during the challenging days ahead. Security arrangements for the hospital stay had been finalized weeks in advance. Catherine's protection officers coordinated with hospital security to ensure her safety and privacy without disrupting normal hospital operations. Special accommodations were made for family visits while maintaining the confidentiality that both medical ethics and royal protocol required. As the family settled in for their final normal evening together before surgery, Catherine felt a mixture of anticipation and peace. The medical team had prepared thoroughly, her family was supported and informed, and the palace machinery had been adjusted to function smoothly during her absence. While uncertainty about the future remained, she faced it with the same grace and determination that had carried her through every previous challenge. The transformation from a normal family life to one organized around medical treatment and recovery was nearly complete. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and the beginning of a journey that would test every aspect of Catherine's strength and resilience. But tonight she was surrounded by the love and support that would sustain her through whatever lay ahead. The morning of February 14th arrived with an unusual stillness at Adelaide Cottage. William woke before dawn, his internal clock disturbed by the weight of the day ahead. Catherine was already awake beside him, having spent much of the night in quiet reflection and prayer. The early morning light cast gentle shadows across their bedroom, the same room where they had shared countless ordinary mornings that now felt precious in their normalcy. Their preparation routine was methodical and calm. Catherine had chosen her clothes the night before, comfortable clothing for the journey to the hospital and simple items that would be easy to change into after surgery. William helped her pack the final items in her overnight bag, including the photos of the children that would sit beside her hospital bed and the small jewelry box that held her wedding ring and other meaningful pieces she couldn't wear during surgery. The children were still sleeping when Catherine and William left Adelaide Cottage. They had said their goodbyes the night before, with extra hugs and whispered promises that Mummy would be home soon. Carol Middleton had arrived early that morning and was quietly preparing breakfast for when the children woke up, ensuring their day would begin with familiar comfort and routine despite their mother's absence. The drive to the London clinic was taken in relative silence, both Catherine and William lost in their own thoughts while their protection officers maintained radio contact with the hospital security team. London's early morning traffic provided a strange sense of normalcy, reminders that the world continued its ordinary pace, while their personal world was about to change dramatically. Dr. Mitchell met them personally at the hospital's private entrance. Her presence provided immediate reassurance, representing the culmination of weeks of careful planning and preparation. The medical team had arrived early to complete final preparations, ensuring that every aspect of Catherine's care would proceed smoothly and professionally. The pre-surgery routine included final consultations with the anesthesiologist, surgical team, and recovery nurses. Each professional who would be involved in Catherine's care had been thoroughly briefed not only on her medical needs, but also on the special considerations required for treating a senior member of the royal family. Their experience and discretion would be crucial elements in her successful treatment. Catherine's hospital room had been prepared with both medical necessities and personal comforts. The space was equipped with advanced monitoring equipment while also providing a calming environment with fresh flowers, soft lighting, and space for family visits. The balance between medical functionality and personal comfort reflected the careful planning that had gone into every aspect of her treatment. William remained with Catherine throughout the pre-surgery preparations, holding her hand during medical consultations and providing the steady support that had characterized their partnership through every challenge they had faced together. His presence was both comforting and practical, as he needed to understand every aspect of the surgical procedure and recovery process to make informed decisions about Catherine's care. The surgical team briefing included detailed explanations of the procedure, expected duration, and immediate recovery expectations. Dr. Mitchell explained each step of the process in terms that both Catherine and William could understand, ensuring they felt fully informed about what would happen during the surgery and what to expect in the hours immediately following. King Charles arrived at the hospital just before Catherine was taken to surgery. His presence represented both personal support for his daughter-in-law and institutional acknowledgement of the gravity of the situation. The king's own experiences with medical procedures gave him unique insight into what Catherine was facing, and his calm presence provided additional strength for both Catherine and William. The brief family gathering in Catherine's room before surgery was both emotional and strengthening. Charles offered personal words of encouragement, while William provided the steady love and support that Catherine needed most. The moment captured the unique blend of personal affection and royal dignity that characterized the family's approach to both public duties and private challenges. As Catherine was prepared for surgery, she maintained the composure and grace that had become her trademark. Her thoughts turned to her children, who would be starting their day with Granny Carol, and to all the people who would be following her progress and recovery. The sense of responsibility she felt to handle this challenge with dignity was balanced by gratitude for the medical care and family support surrounding her. The surgery began at precisely 10:30 a.m., with Dr. Mitchell leading a team of specialists who had prepared extensively for this moment. The procedure was expected to take several hours, during which William waited in a private family room with King Charles and other close family members who had arrived to provide support during the long vigil. William's waiting experience was intense and deeply personal. His military background had taught him to remain calm under pressure, but watching someone he loved face medical challenges tested every aspect of his emotional strength. He found comfort in practical activities, reviewing recovery protocols with medical staff, and coordinating family communications, while counting down the hours until Catherine would be back in his care. King Charles used the waiting time to handle urgent royal business that couldn't be postponed, demonstrating the reality of royal life, where personal challenges had to be balanced with ongoing institutional responsibilities. His private secretary arrived with dispatch boxes and briefing materials, allowing the king to maintain his official duties while remaining available for family support as needed. The palace communications team remained in constant contact with the hospital, prepared to issue statements about Catherine's condition once the surgery was complete. Multiple versions of potential announcements had been prepared in advance, allowing for quick response to any developments while ensuring accuracy and appropriate tone for public communication. Regular updates from the surgical team provided reassurance about Catherine's progress during the procedure. Each report confirmed that the surgery was proceeding according to plan, with no unexpected complications or concerns. These updates were immediately shared with William and King Charles, providing the information they needed to stay informed about Catherine's condition. The surgical procedure concluded successfully after 4 hours, with Dr. Mitchell personally providing the first post-operative briefing to William and King Charles. The surgery had proceeded exactly as planned, with all objectives achieved and no complications encountered. Catherine's condition was stable, and she was being moved to recovery, where she would gradually wake up under careful medical supervision. William's relief was evident as Dr. Mitchell explained that the surgical team was optimistic about Catherine's recovery prospects. The procedure had achieved its medical objectives, and while recovery would require time and patience, the long-term prognosis was very positive. This news provided the first real relief William had felt since receiving the original diagnosis weeks earlier. Catherine's initial recovery took place in a specialized unit where medical staff could monitor her condition continuously while ensuring her comfort and privacy. The room was equipped with advanced monitoring equipment while maintaining the calm, supportive environment that would aid her healing process. William was able to be present as she gradually regained consciousness, providing the familiar face and voice she needed most. The first post-surgery family reunion was emotional and deeply meaningful. Catherine's first words were questions about the children and expressions of gratitude to William for his support throughout the process. Despite her physical discomfort and the effects of anesthesia, her thoughts immediately turned to her family and her eagerness to begin the recovery process that would eventually reunite her with normal life. Dr. Mitchell explained the recovery timeline and expectations during an evening consultation with Catherine and William. The immediate hospital stay would last several days, followed by a gradual return to activity over several weeks. Physical therapy would be important for regaining strength, and regular medical monitoring would ensure that recovery proceeded smoothly and safely. The children's first visit to see their mother was carefully planned and managed. George, Charlotte, and Louis arrived with Granny Carol and Papa, bringing handmade cards, drawings, and small gifts to brighten Catherine's room. Their excitement at seeing Mummy, combined with careful explanations about why she needed to rest and recover, created a touching family moment that reinforced their bonds during a challenging time. Palace staff coordination during Catherine's hospital stay required unprecedented cooperation between different royal households. William's schedule was completely cleared to allow him to focus on Catherine's care and the children's needs. King Charles and Queen Camilla took on additional royal duties to ensure that institutional obligations were met while the Wales family focused on recovery and healing. The international response to news of Catherine's surgery was immediate and overwhelming. Messages of support arrived from heads of state, fellow royals, and ordinary people around the world who had been touched by Catherine's work and personality. The volume of well-wishes demonstrated the global affection for Catherine and the concern people felt about her well-being. Media management during the hospital stay required careful balance between providing appropriate updates about Catherine's recovery and maintaining her medical privacy. Regular statements about her progress satisfied public interest while respecting her right to recover without excessive scrutiny. The palace communication strategy emphasized optimism about recovery while managing expectations about timeline and return to duties. Catherine's personal recovery during the hospital stay included both physical healing and emotional adjustment to her new reality. The support of medical staff, combined with constant family presence and an outpouring of public goodwill, created an environment that promoted both physical recovery and emotional resilience. Each day brought measurable improvement and growing confidence about the future. As the hospital stay progressed, plans began forming for Catherine's return home and the longer-term recovery process. The transition back to Adelaide Cottage would mark the beginning of a new phase in her healing journey, one that would gradually restore normal family life while building strength for an eventual return to royal duties. The foundation for recovery had been established through successful surgery and strong family support, creating optimism for the challenging but hopeful months ahead. The morning of March 22 marked exactly 5 weeks since Catherine's surgery, and the atmosphere at Adelaide Cottage had transformed from anxious uncertainty to cautious optimism. Catherine had returned home 10 days after her operation, but the weeks that followed had been a careful balance of rest, recovery, and gradually returning to family life. Today felt different, though. There was an energy in the household that suggested something significant was about to happen. William had been unusually secretive for the past few days, taking private phone calls and having quiet conversations with his private secretary that stopped abruptly when Catherine entered the room. She had noticed the subtle changes in routine, the way staff moved with slightly more purpose, and how her children seemed to be bursting with barely contained excitement about something they couldn't quite explain. The decision had been made weeks earlier, but the timing had required careful consideration. King Charles had been involved in extensive discussions with William, palace communications teams, and medical advisors about when and how to share Catherine's progress with the public. The world had been following her recovery with genuine concern and affection, and both the family and the institution felt a responsibility to provide an update that would honor that support. Dr. Mitchell's most recent examination had provided the green light they had been hoping for. Catherine's recovery had exceeded expectations in several key areas, and while she still had weeks of healing ahead, her progress was remarkable enough to warrant cautious celebration. The medical team's optimism provided the foundation for what was about to become a historic moment in royal communications. The children had been brought into the planning process in age-appropriate ways. George understood that Papa and the king had something special planned to tell people about Mummy's recovery. Charlotte knew that they were going to share good news with all the people who had been worried about Mummy. Louis simply knew that today was going to be a happy day where they could celebrate Mummy feeling better. The setting chosen for the announcement was significant in its simplicity. Rather than the formal environment of Buckingham Palace or the grand staterooms that typically hosted royal declarations, the family decided to use the garden at Adelaide Cottage. The spring flowers were beginning to bloom, creating a natural backdrop that symbolized renewal and hope, themes that perfectly captured Catherine's recovery journey. Professional photographers and videographers had been quietly coordinating with palace staff for days to ensure the technical aspects of the announcement would proceed smoothly. The goal was to create content that felt both official and deeply personal, reflecting the unique nature of Catherine's health journey and the public's emotional investment in her well-being. Catherine had spent considerable time preparing her thoughts for what she would say. Unlike typical royal statements that were crafted by communications teams, this message needed to come directly from her heart and in her own words. She wanted to address not only her current condition, but also acknowledged the outpouring of support she had received and expressed gratitude for the patience people had shown during her recovery. King Charles arrived at Adelaide Cottage in the early afternoon, accompanied by a small entourage that included his private secretary and a senior communications advisor. His presence was essential both as head of the family and as the monarch, lending official weight to what was essentially a very personal health update. Charles had been deeply moved by the public response to Catherine's illness and wanted to be present for this moment of positive news. The technical setup in the garden was surprisingly simple given the global significance of what was about to be recorded. A single camera, positioned to capture both Catherine and the beautiful spring garden behind her, would record a message that would be shared around the world within hours. The simplicity was intentional, designed to feel intimate and authentic rather than overly produced or formal. William's role in the day's events was both central and subtle. While Catherine would be the primary speaker, his presence beside her would demonstrate the partnership that had sustained them through the challenging weeks of treatment and recovery. Their unity in facing this challenge had been a source of strength for both of them, and sharing that strength publicly felt like a natural extension of their authentic relationship. The actual recording began at 3:30 p.m., with late afternoon light providing the perfect natural illumination for Catherine's message. She was seated comfortably in the garden, wearing a soft blue dress that echoed the spring sky, her appearance radiant with the glow of someone who had faced serious challenges and emerged stronger. William sat beside her, his presence supportive without being overwhelming. Catherine's opening words addressed the elephant in the room directly and honestly. She acknowledged that the past several months had been challenging for her family and explained that she wanted to share an update about her health personally rather than through official statements or media speculation. Her voice was strong and clear, carrying the confidence of someone who had faced uncertainty and found solid ground on the other side. The medical update she provided was both reassuring and realistic. Catherine explained that her surgery had been successful and that her recovery was progressing better than expected. She acknowledged that she still had healing ahead of her, but emphasized that doctors were optimistic about her long-term prognosis. The balance between good news and honest acknowledgement of ongoing recovery reflected both her characteristic authenticity and careful medical guidance. Perhaps most importantly, Catherine addressed the impact her health challenges had on her role as a working royal and her commitment to the causes she championed. She explained that while she needed to prioritize her health and family during recovery, her dedication to her royal duties and charitable work remained unchanged. This reassurance addressed public concerns about the long-term implications of her health challenges. King Charles spoke briefly during the recording, his words reflecting both personal affection for Catherine and institutional gratitude for the public support she had received. His presence in the announcement carried constitutional weight, signaling that Catherine's recovery was not just a family celebration, but a matter of significance for the monarchy itself. Charles's obvious relief and joy added emotional depth to the formal aspects of the announcement. The children's involvement in the day was carefully managed but genuine. While they didn't appear in the formal recorded message, their laughter and voices could be heard in the background, providing a natural reminder of the family life that had sustained Catherine through her health challenges. Their joy in their mother's recovery was infectious and authentic, adding warmth to what could have been a purely medical update. William's brief comments during the recording focused on gratitude for the medical team that had provided excellent care, for family and friends who had offered support, and especially for the public who had respected their privacy while expressing genuine concern for Catherine's well-being. His words reflected the balance he had maintained throughout Catherine's recovery between protecting his family and acknowledging their public role. The technical aspects of creating the announcement video required several takes to ensure the message was clear and the visual quality met broadcast standards. However, the multiple recordings also allowed Catherine to refine her words and find the exact tone she wanted to convey. The final version captured both her natural warmth and the strength she had developed through her recovery journey. Once recording was complete, the family spent time together in the garden, celebrating privately before the message would be shared with the world. The children had prepared a small tea party featuring Catherine's favorite cake, and the afternoon became an impromptu family celebration of recovery, resilience, and the return of hopeful normalcy to their lives. The global response to Catherine's announcement was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Within hours of the video's release, messages of congratulations and continued support flooded in from around the world. Social media platforms were filled with expressions of relief and joy from people who had been following Catherine's recovery journey with genuine concern and affection. International media coverage of the announcement was extensive but respectful, reflecting the goodwill Catherine had built through years of dedicated royal service. News outlets around the world led with the positive news of her recovery progress, and editorial commentary consistently praised both her courage in facing health challenges and her grace in sharing her journey with the public. The announcement marked not just a medical milestone, but a turning point in public understanding of royal life and health challenges. Catherine's openness about her health journey, while maintaining appropriate privacy, created a new model for how royal families might handle similar situations in the future. Her approach balanced transparency with dignity in ways that honored both public interest and personal privacy. The evening after the announcement, Catherine and William found themselves alone together for the first time in weeks without medical concerns dominating their thoughts. Their conversation reflected on the journey they had traveled together, from the initial diagnosis through surgery and recovery to this moment of being able to share positive news with the world. The experience had strengthened their partnership and deepened their appreciation for their family life and royal responsibilities. As they prepared for bed that night, Catherine reflected on how much her perspective had changed through this experience. The health challenges had given her new appreciation for ordinary moments with her family, while reinforcing her commitment to using her royal platform to support others facing similar challenges. The future looked different now, but it was a future filled with possibility and purpose. The announcement had marked the beginning of a new chapter rather than the end of Catherine's health journey. Recovery would continue for several more months, and her return to full royal duties would be gradual and carefully managed. But the foundation had been laid for a future that honored both her personal healing and her public responsibilities, creating a sustainable path forward that protected her health while serving the causes and people she cared about most. The success of this approach to sharing health challenges publicly while maintaining appropriate privacy created a lasting legacy that would influence how the royal family handled similar situations in the future. Catherine's grace, honesty, and strength throughout her health journey had shown that personal vulnerability, when handled with dignity, could actually strengthen rather than diminish public respect and affection for the royal family.